My name is Dr Chris Bamborough. I'm an academic coordinator in the Architecture Diploma. I run Stage 1 and Stage 3. I was a sessional academic called over in UTS whilst studying my PhD. So teaching design, history theory over in UTS. So I spent a lot of time in that building. UTS College, we really work hard to make sure that concepts and activities are very, very well scaffolded. So in the sense that they're very clear on what you have to do. Now the art within that is then giving space for creativity. We really try and promote that students bring in their personal interests, their cultural backgrounds. We're always talking about what buildings do you like, what have you seen around you, what interests do you have per year. So I think creativity comes from an interest and hopefully an excitement in architecture. So my approach has changed a lot because we teach in a very student-centered way at UTS College. So coming from UTS, which is quite lecture-based and then studio-based, coming to UTS College, which is a lot more what we call asynchronous. So students study in their own time. They gain all the knowledge and skills. They have control over when they do that. And then we look at collaborative exercises in the tutorials. There are a few big conversations or discourses happening in architecture. And it depends what your interest is in. The one that UTS is currently exploring is social justice, Indigenous knowledge, connection to the country, which is less about forcing a building onto a site rather than allowing it to evolve and develop from the country, from the landscape. The other side is AI, which we can't really avoid. So it's dramatically changing the practice. So much so that some big practices are now generating some of their designs via image generation services. Yeah, in the future, if some of those things get built, which I'm always a little bit skeptical about, because some things are so fantastical, they forget that things have to stand up and, there has to be structure. But we could start to see some very expressive, fantastical buildings. I actually prefer buildings where I can look at them and work out how they've been built. And so having a structural logic, for instance, the tower, the original UTS tower, there's a real strong logic to how that's built. And some people love that. In some ways, it hasn't changed very much. We still rely heavily on drawing models, photography. There's a conscious effort in UTS College that we concentrate on the hand drawing and the analog aspect, because architects need to be able to explain an idea, and you won't always have a computer to handily generate something. Using the sketchbook, creating something quickly from a piece of paper or card. We've got the FJMT library above us. And then we have the OG UTS tower from the 60s, which I personally love. The Urban Block have quite a few buildings around Sydney at the moment, and they're very, very influenced by modernism, but it's a very modern, contemporary take on modernism. So there's glimpses of Le Corbusier techniques that he had. So there's sculptural concrete, there are murals which are very similar to his paintings. There are sculptural concrete elements, and then there are a few things thrown in. Additionally, there are a few modern additions, tough and glass, so you can look through the floor and things like that. So number one advice is really to make it about themselves. They'll receive all the knowledge and the skills, but ultimately it's knowing what architecture they're interested in, what part of architecture gives them energy, makes them want to come back and keep working on something, because it takes a lot of perseverance. There's a lot of work involved. So it's really, it's having a passion and being able to connecting to the architecture that's around you, and kind of having an interest to want to explore and find out more about that, really.